Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody, to our ninth Athlete to Entrepreneur panel. With this being the ninth panel, if I'm doing my math correctly, that means we brought you over 30 stories, interviews, presentations of athletes turned entrepreneurs from 30 different people. I'm not even talking about the Thrive After Sports podcast. I'm talking about just the Athlete to Entrepreneur panels. So, with that being said, if you are, first of all, thank you for joining us. Excuse me, where are my manners? If you are a current athlete, a former athlete, a parent of an athlete, a coach, someone who works in an athletic department, I highly encourage you, number one, to take notes, listen to yourself and the stories of these athletes, turned entrepreneurs that you're about to hear from. Feel free to ask questions. You know, we will be doing interview style, but all these amazing people are happy to answer questions for you. And what else did I want to say? The reason we do these, just to set the tone as we go into this, the reason we do these athletes entrepreneur panels is to show that next generation of athletes that it's not just LeBron James, it's not just some of the household names that you may know, it's everyday people like you and I who are doing big things in the world. So let's get into it. I want you to hear from some of these phenomenal people. We have another fire lineup of athletes turned entrepreneurs for you today. As always, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to get in. Next up, we have a woman who talk about a visionary. This woman is an inspiration, not just to countless athletes around the world, but to me as well. She's become like a sister to me over the past few years. Let me give her an intro so we can hurry up and get her on screen. So Morgan Jones is a speaker, consultant, and impact mentorship program creator. Her mission is to help athletes evolve into their true path, voice, and purpose in life. She's led sold out events and been featured on CBS News, ABC, and Essence Magazine. She knows what it takes to create a sustainable and authentic brand that transcends past an athlete's playing days. Please welcome to Athletes Entrepreneur, Miss Morgan Jones.
Hey, what's up?
What's going on, Mo? Great to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Hey, I've been looking forward to this. This is going to be another one of those exclusives because you and I have had several conversations over the past few years, but once again, I don't know the full story. So I'm learning just like everybody else right now. We're going to hear this from A to Z. And once again, I have to give some acknowledgments up front. I've been more intentional about doing that. You and I don't even know if you remember this. I think we connected in 2018 going into 2019. So coming up on 3 years now. But we had a brief conversation, probably only 30 minutes. But before we got off that call, we were just like, yeah, you get it. You know the real. Like you're actually really trying to do this and have an impact. You're not just following trends. Like Dr. Campbell said, this is a mission. This is your life's work. And it's been beautiful over the past few years to watch it manifest and unfold to greater heights than even you probably imagined it would go to. So I just want to give you some love and acknowledgement on that. Props to you for everything that you do.
Thank you so much. That is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, I wanted to dive in with, you were All-American, you played at Florida State, and then you had I don't know if I've asked you about your professional career. Where did you play professionally?
I played in Puerto Rico professionally. So after I finished at Florida State in 2015, then I went and played in Puerto Rico for a season.
Got you. And then can you talk a little bit about, you said for a season, so what was it like as your basketball career started to wind down? What was that whole journey like?
Yeah, well, let me go back. I can't even say a full season because no, yeah, my journey kind of came to an end in a very unique way. So when I was in Puerto Rico, I was playing there, and there'd be games where I would hit game-winning shots. There'd be games when I was having a 20-point game, and then the next game, like I'd have 7 points, a couple turnovers, and wouldn't have the greatest performance. I can remember going into the locker room and the coach, it's just like the Love and Basketball scene you see where you really don't know what they're saying. And then when your team comes over, right, that whole thing played out in my actual reality. And, the coach said, he said, hey, look, if Morgan, you don't score the ball, you go home. You go home, like in his accent. And I'm like, wait, what? You go home. I'm like, wow, it's like that? Like, you're just going to send me home? So that was kind of the reality of like me starting to realize, that as you climb the ladder of sports, love you when you're doing great, hate you when you're not. Dang, where does my value lie? So they ended up cutting me from the team. But ironically, I was invited to be in the All-Star game for the league. So I was off the team, and then I played in the All-Star game, and I happened to get MVP of the All-Star game. So here they are. I'm like the only player out on the court that like really doesn't belong to a team. And then I'm standing in the middle of the floor with the commissioner of the league, and I got my little MVP trophy. And now all of these other teams are like, I'll pick her up. I'll pick her up. So I got offered another contract to come back for another week. And I can remember thinking to myself, like, okay, this may be the end, Morgan. Like you're really kind of there. This is a pretty clear sign. This is a very high note to go out on. And so if you take this last contract for a week, because they're only going to try you out, you take this last contract, how do you want it to be? How do you want to say that your journey came to an end, that you closed the chapter, you closed the door? And so what I did was I took my last week of pay contract and I flew my family to Puerto Rico. We stayed at a resort. We were out hanging, whatever, right? And that's how I ended my career, is on a high note with my family, with celebrating what the game has done for me. The kind of really opening the eyes that it may come to an end, and then being excited about the adventure of what's next.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing, Mo. Thank you for sharing that. And that's why I asked, because I think I like to get back to the beginning, because that's where it all started, right? You don't have everything that you're doing now without that experience and without you going out so strong, really taking ownership over that situation. I mean, flying the whole family out, you really did it in style, Mo. That's made. Not only did you get the MVP trophy, but you're like, hey, we're gonna have a party in Puerto Rico before I come back home. Thank you for sharing that piece. That was awesome. I didn't know that story at all. So then what happens? Because I know that you were sort of, like you said, you weren't really digging the business side of it. And I didn't play professionally, but I had that experience in college. I just felt like I lost my love for the game. And I think a lot of athletes experience that either in college or professionally. I don't think that's something that's talked about very often. So I appreciate you sharing that. But do you feel like because you were able to, like it wasn't a sudden thing, you were able to see your career starting to wind down? Do you think it gave you a softer landing, or did you still have a lot of challenges once you came back from Puerto Rico?
I still had a lot of challenges. I think every athlete will have challenges. I don't care how prepared you really are. You're going to go through challenges, especially emotionally and mentally. I think, even if you hop into your dream job or you've got that next idea that you're ready to chase, it takes an emotional and a mental toll on you because of the realization that, this game is done. Whether your experience was great or not great, it's a loss in a sense that, it's real exciting at first because you're excited about what's next. And then the realization comes where you realize you don't have a team anymore. You can't just pick up your phone and call your coach for anything. Like, you don't have those going out and hanging out and all of that community that sports brings. So you definitely do struggle. So for me in particular, it was a pretty big awakening in the sense that, I went back home and, living on the couch with mom and dad, having to drive Uber, had my first sales job that I was super unfulfilled, but I was killing it because it's sales and we're go-getters. So you tell me if I need to hit these 3 markers, I'm gonna do it. But wasn't feeling fulfilled. It was like, man, this can't be what I'm supposed to really be doing. So how do I find purpose? How do I find more direction and really be able to stand on my own feet? And so what I did was I started just looking back at the athlete journey and was like, what was missing? Man, I climbed it, right? I started off as a little girl. I was told the dream's to go pro, get there. However you get there, by all means, get there. And so that's what I was chasing for so long. And then I got there in Puerto Rico or pro, and I'm sleeping in a room with no windows. I have teammates and I'm in a house where no one speaks English. We're eating very low quality food and all that stuff and getting paid barely anything. And I'm like, whoa, what happened? So, I say all that to say it took me going back into the reflection process, right? Digging deep and saying, man, what could athletes be equipped with, learn, develop to be more prepared for this reality that's going to happen to everyone when they decide to step out.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely want to get to that in a second. We're for sure going to talk about athletes, Divisionaries. I want to go back to what you said, because we have this in common with starting out in sales. I was also very good at sales, making great money, but I would find myself on Sunday nights being like, man, I really have to go back into this office tomorrow morning. I don't know if I could do it. I would be sitting in the parking lot, looking at the office building, trying to muster up the strength just to walk in there to do it all over again. So I appreciate you being transparent with that part of your journey too. Because, and I've heard you talk about this too, but I always caution athletes not to be so quick to just go into the two things that they tell us athletes to go into after our careers, which is sales and coaching. You have to be very careful with that. Very careful. Just because you're making money in sales, you don't want to find yourself in a weird place where the money's not going to fill that void if you haven't done the internal work. And then I always tell people with coaching too, you don't want to get into coaching just because you don't know anything else and you're staying in your comfort zone. Some athletes make phenomenal coaches, and they definitely should. Other athletes, you'd be better off just exploring other paths. And I know you're really big on sharing that message as well. So let's talk about athletes to visionaries. Now, was there anything, I know you didn't just leave the sales job and immediately start the business. What was the road to actually having the vision and then starting to build upon that vision?
That's a great question. It was a very slow transition out. So the money that I was making, I started saving. I put it into some terrible investments, like a too expensive website. Like for some reason, I thought that was it. I made a ton of mistakes initially, but over time, saving that money, so then I could pivot out and say, okay, this is how I'm going to start, speaking on this, because that felt like what was most natural, and figuring out how to navigate this path, because this path doesn't exist. It didn't exist in terms of, personal development for athletes, life skills, if you will. When I was an athlete, we didn't have life skills coordinators. You had your academic advisor and your coaches. So it is a new space, and it's specifically a new space for independent entrepreneurs to come in as third parties and provide insight. So, for me, it was saving, getting prepared, doing a lot of research. I think that was a big part that I had to learn, is I thought college would have fully served me for post athletics and post college. Like, I'm good. I got my degree. I know everything now. What's up? Who's going to hire me? And I realized that I had to do a lot of self-education. And so with some really great mentors that just empowered me to really take ownership of teaching myself everything that I wanted to know. They said, like, everything that you want to know or you want to learn is on the internet. There's no excuse why anyone can't carve out their own path and make something out of their passion. And so with some great advice for some mentors, I slowly started to make that transition.
Okay, Mo, there's so much there that I want to unpack, because as you were sharing, it's like, yes. There's so much there that athletes need to hear. You alluded to like researching, and of course, researching mentors or researching the industry as a whole, but also getting your skills up. Like, not just being like, hey, I have this idea, people should pay me to do this, but like enhancing your ability and working on your craft every single day. The same way you did with basketball. So the reason I bring this up is because, as you know, a lot of athletes, I was one of these people too. You get done playing your sport and like you said, somebody should just pay me. Like, I have all these skills without developing skills to be good at other things. Can you talk about, number one, the importance of getting your skills up, and number two, the importance of finding people who can help you and pour into you along the way?
Yeah. One, for getting your skills up, it's just like anything else. Everything comes with a learning curve. So you have to be patient in that. It's the same thing when you first picked up the ball, right? Like, you didn't pick up and start doing crossovers and behind the backs, right? You slowly started working on your left hand. You worked on your right hand. You had to build up those skills. And so it's going into something new with the expectation that there's going to be a learning curve, and giving yourself that, that patience and time and space to learn new things and not feel like you have to have it right away. So for me, that was diving into iMovie at the time, right? iMovie was like video was starting to emerge. So I taught myself iMovie. I would follow people on Instagram that were like Instagram experts, and I would learn how Instagram really works, the algorithm, what to post, what not to post, how to keep people engaged. I went into graphic design, Canva, went in there, started playing with different designs and different messaging and things like that. And so I did a lot of like just self-teaching, YouTubing, how to do the lighting for a good setup, all that stuff. And that has served me tremendously now. I mean, it's 5 years later now, I know all that stuff, but I've gotten consulting agreements and contracts off the fact that not only can I bring my expertise, but I also know how to help them with social media. I also know how to design stuff. And so I have so many tools in my pocket that my price goes up. So that's the skill part. In terms of mentors, I'm big on relationships. I think any athletes that are listening to this know that. But I would hope if any athletes that are in college or coming up that are still in it, man, those relationships around you are everything. You don't have time to be mad at people. You don't have time to take things personal. You got time to build relationships and make sure that when you leave that program, institution, school, that you're on a good slate, because you really never know where someone else is going to be. You really never know when they're going to be able to come into your life in a powerful way that's able to pivot your dreams, your desires for your life. So really it's building strong relationships and being more interested than interesting.
I love that. Can you talk about what that means? Be more interested than interesting. I love that.
I think as athletes, we are so used to people being interested in us, our game, our performance. How's your practice? What's going on? What's next? That we forget to ask questions. We forget to be interested in other people. And so try not to be the most interesting person. When you sit down at a table, redirect the energy that may be coming to you back to them. Learn about people. People want to be seen.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Mo. Let's talk about athletes visionaries. For if any reason, if someone's been living under a rock, they haven't heard of this, they don't know about what you're up to, can you please just give us a high level view of what athletes to visionaries is and everything that it encompasses, just all the great work that you're doing?
Okay, so entrepreneurship 101. You're supposed to be able to like put it in one sentence what you do.
You don't have to do all that. Like I want to hear all of it. Yeah.
It's so funny because I just laugh, and I'm only laughing with you, and every other entrepreneur that's on here is like, what do you do? I do a lot. But but specifically, Athletes to Visionaries helps athletes define and design who they are beyond the game. I'm a big believer that you can look at your transition and just go into it by default, or you can look at your transition and see it as something that you design, something that is yours to own. I think there's a lot of power in that, but the power has got to come back to you, and it's got to be within you to be able to land on that next passion, right? The right path for you, your true purpose. So what we do is I work with female athletes in particular because my ladies need more service. They need more tailored resources to their experience versus the male experience. And so we do workshops, we do programs, we have year-long curriculums that we build out to help them start to unravel this. Okay, it's great to say like, I'm more than an athlete, right? But what does that really mean? And how do I start to address some conditioning that I have within me that may not serve me in the long run? So we do that in many different ways.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, thank you for sharing that, by the way, but I just wanted to acknowledge that's one of the things from the get-go that I love about your work. Of course, after having that initial conversation with you and us getting to know each other, but also just watching from a distance, one of the things that's very clear about Athletes to Visionaries is that you have a holistic approach. And I think, as the transition space has started to expand, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm saying this purely as a compliment to you. There's a difference between just talking about it, like you said, and posting memes and actually getting on the ground and actually helping people on a personal one-on-one or group level. And I think that the fact, like you mentioned, there has to be, you have to go beneath the surface and address things that could potentially, because the last thing you want to do through your work or through anyone who does this type of work is help someone and they're getting tripped up down the line once they start to find success because you didn't address certain things up front. So I love that you shared that. Let's talk about one of the more recent ventures, I guess, for lack of a better term, with Athletes and Visionaries, which is the Vision Box. Can you talk to us about the Vision Box? That's been awesome to see.
Yeah, the Vision Box is a toolkit to help you start to design, who you are today, tomorrow, in the future. And it's something that's dear to me because it was my way that I pulled myself out of my athlete identity, that I started to say, okay, Morgan, here you are, Uber sales job, unfulfilled, partying. Is this going to be your life, right? So what I did was I created a really powerful vision board. And, I had the same kind of connotation that a lot of people do have around vision boards. We're like, oh, it's cute, it's fluffy, right? But as athletes, like we want results tomorrow. We're trained to want results. But when I started doing more research about it and how powerful our minds are in training our subconscious mind through images and powerful words and affirmations, I kind of took the jump and I made a vision board that had absolutely nothing to do with my reality. Like there was nothing realistic on my vision board. Everything reflected who I wanted to become, the type of impact that I wanted to have on people, the type of platforms that I wanted to speak on, the type of ways that I want to show up in rooms, all those very self-empowering, who is Morgan, pictures and images. And from when I made it in 2016, now I really even go to 2021, 80% of my vision board has manifested. I look at those images every day and say, that's where I'm going. And I think it's very important that everyone has some form of visual somewhere where they see every day that reminds them where they're going. Because if you rely on your social media feed to tell you where you're going, you're gonna be stuck right where you started. So it's really creating that intentional space for yourself, giving yourself permission to dream, giving yourself permission to wire and design your mind and your reality in the way that you want it to go.
Yeah, I love that. And that was one of the things that I really liked about your direction with the vision box from the get-go, is that, like you said, if you tell an athlete just make a vision board, they're like, I don't have time for that. Like you know what I mean? Like, but if you give them a tool, like you've done with multiple, it's not just the box itself is a tool, but there's tools within the tool, which is really cool. I didn't mean to rhyme, but you know what I'm saying? Like that is pretty cool. I love that you've done that, because you're empowering. Like you said, we keep coming back to that word empowering, and we keep coming back to the word create. And that's what you've done, not just with the vision box, but through your work, is empowering athletes, specifically female athletes, to create the next chapter of their lives and create a holistic, well-rounded version of themselves, which is a beautiful thing. So I don't mean to be all up in your business, but we have to talk about, this was exciting to me when I saw something recently happen with a certain company with the vision box. Do you want to share that? There was a company. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you go.
Yeah. So when I created the vision box, I started off with just a small quantity. And, I everyone that's on here too, I think this is a great audience of just entrepreneurs, because you guys all appreciate this. And then people that are looking and aspiring to be entrepreneurs is, it's great. It's great information that's on here. But specifically, I started off in my house. Like I had all these boxes. I designed the box. I put everything. I put the stickers on the box. I packed the box, the whole 9 yards. My apartment was a hot mess. And I was like, I had all these boxes, and it's so funny because I had all these boxes. And then I'm like, oh, wait, now I have to market and tell people why they need the box. And so that was like a whole nother hurdle. But, long story short, the box started circulating and got a lot of really good traction. And someone at Google got a hold of the vision box and was like, this is incredible. We want to get this for all of our employees. How many do you have? And so they bought my entire inventory. And so the vision box has been, in California, in Wyoming, in Africa. I sent one to Brazil. And it was a really cool experience because they all used the vision box as an opportunity to come together and talk about their visions, because Google had just transitioned everyone to remote. And so it was just the perfect activity and kind of time they could spend together. So that was very, very cool and very blessed.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And you're so humble, you didn't even bring it up when you were sharing. I was like, I'm for sure going to bring it up. And I know, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say, like, the reason I wanted to bring that up is, like you said, there are people who are going to be so inspired by that, because it's not about, like, yes, it's cool to have your brand and your vision associated with Google. And I know that's not why you do what you do. It's not about clout. It's about having an impact. But I think it is such a huge milestone. And to have a nod and an acknowledgement from Google is just a testament to the quality of the work you're doing. So that's why I wanted you to share that. I thought it was super cool when I saw that. And then
it goes back to, like, always, if you're rooted in the right thing, you're doing things for the right reasons. You're really, operating from a heart of service. Things take care of themselves.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to ask you about this. I think this would be a good time for you to give some advice to athletes or entrepreneur, anybody who is, maybe they have a clear why around why they want to do something. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have a clear what they want to do, but I think a lot of people get tripped up on the how. Because you've had a clear vision of how you wanted to do it, and that takes different shapes for many different people. But what advice can you give to someone who's trying to figure out, okay, I know what I want to do, but like, how do I figure out the best process of doing this?
Start. The thing is like no one truly has the formula to what's going to help you get up every day and be excited about what you do. So if you have an idea and you want to go towards the t-shirt business, or you want to take it towards a podcast or whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's like you're going to have to get up and do it. And so I would just say start and refine as you go. Don't release the expectation that your first venture is you're just going to be on fire and it's going to be lit. Like, release that. Nope. Just start and refine as you go, because you'll get better and better and better as you go. That's when you're starting off as, I have this idea, I've got this passion, I want to see what it can do or where it could go. That's that. If you're talking about going like an investor route and getting money and like really building out something that you feel like, is very like sustainable or innovative, I guess you can say, research. It's something that's not fun. I absolutely hate researching, but now I will not go into another conversation without researching something. Like, everyone has ideas, but who wins are the people that actually know, like, what's already existing in that space. How effective can this be? What financial breakdown do I need to really consider to be able to do this? And if you do the right research up front, you're going to be better off in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love what you said about just starting and then refining as you go. I think that really is the strongest advice you can give to someone, because then a lot of people get caught up in analysis or paralysis by analysis and never get anything done. And the vision that they have never takes shape because they never did anything. So
well,
hey Mo, I have no idea what just happened, by the way.
I don't either.
I was mid. It might just be my phone or something. I completely forgot what I was saying, but I love the advice on that. Just one more question before we wrap it up. You've already accomplished so much. You're already doing great things in the world. Like I said, you're an inspiration to many, including me. What is next for Morgan Jones? What is next for, athletes to visionaries, all of that?
I mean, next for me is just continuing to get smarter in the way that I do business. That's for me. In terms of the, athletes to visionaries and stuff like that, we're right now, we're in a space where we have created something really powerful that we haven't even put out on social media or anything like that. And so we have our pitch month next month that we'll be pitching with a lot of different universities. And so it's very an innovative program that we really feel like can truly help transitioning, specifically senior graduate student transitioning out athletes. And so our hope is that we're able to set this up in a way that's sustainable with the right partners. So that's where we're at with athletes to visionaries, and it's going to work. It's going to go great because I've done the work. When you put that work in and you learn, like I talked about before, and everyone that's on this call, I didn't start this way, right? I didn't start, getting calls and getting in rooms with athletic directors at Power 5 conferences. Of course, I didn't start there, right? Through this work, though, now that's where I'm at, right? So whatever your idea is, whatever it is you're working towards, don't be afraid of the groundwork. Don't be afraid of the gritty work. It's the same way when you were hustling to become the best athlete you can be. It's the same thing in business. You got to start on the ground. You got to humble yourself. You got to listen. You got to want to learn. And take the expectation that you're going to be an overnight success, because everyone on this call knows that doesn't happen in sports and it don't happen in business. Allow the process, give yourself time, and be mindful as you're moving forward.
That's a perfect way for us to close out, Mo. Thank you for that. We just need, all that's missing right now is like a smoke machine or some fireworks in the background or something. But that was awesome. Thank you so much for that. Before we officially close out, please tell people how they can get in touch with you how they can follow your journey and watch everything continue to unfold, how they can get the vision box, all of that.
Absolutely. So Visions with Mo on Instagram, on all social medias, Visions with an S with WITH Mo, MO. And then the Vision Box will actually be ready for pre-order in July. So that'll be ready to go again then.
Awesome. Well, Mo, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I know people are going to get so much out of this. You know, for you to take the time out on a Saturday to do this and be authentic with your journey and drop some gems, I'm extremely grateful to you. So I appreciate all that you do, and we'll be in touch soon, as always.
Likewise, man. You're awesome. Anytime.
Thanks, Mo. Take care.
Bye.